This story happened all the way back in the May of 2018, and if you clicked on this video only because of the title, I have to warn you that it is a bit of a clickbait. However, if you still want to see what happened on one of the best days of my life, keep on watching. But before we start, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to my channel for more weekly automotive content. Anyway, let's go back in time to the May of 2018, when COVID-19 didn't exist, people could travel, and car manufacturers could produce cars. As my 18th birthday gift, I got a trip to Bologna with my father to check out the supercar manufacturers' factories in the surrounding area. The plan was to go for guided tours of the Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Pagani factories in the upcoming 3 days, but it just so happened that the Italian Pagani Raduno was taking place at the exact same time. We just didn't know where. Pagani is an Italian supercar manufacturer established in San Cesario sul Panaro by Horacio Pagani, and it has become the staple brand in the high-end sports car market in the past 20 years. Each one of their cars is highly customizable by the owner and can cost upwards of $3 million. Over the 2 decades that the company has been up and running, Pagani has only produced variations of 2 models, the Zonda and the Huayra, with the total number of cars produced just touching 400 vehicles. Just for comparison, there are 1,311 Ferrari F40s, 500 Ferrari LaFerraris, and 14,000 Lamborghini Huracans driving around the world. But now, let's get back to the story. We have flown into Italy on Thursday evening, 30th of May 2018, picked up the rental Fiat 500 and drove to our accommodation in the small village of Montevideo Alto. To our surprise, the Pagani owners have already began their journey that morning, so we couldn't just catch up with them at the Pagani factory, and instead we had to track them down all over Italy. Quite inconvenient, if you ask me. What was even more inconvenient was the fact that during that 1 day's journey, the Pagani convoy managed to drive 304 kilometers all the way to the other part of Italy to a small lakeside town called Stresa. Oh well. And the only reason why we managed to find out where they were staying in the first place was because of a single Instagram story. Is one Instagram story enough to persuade my dad and drive 300 kilometers past Milan to the other side of Italy? Apparently yes, because on Friday at 3 AM in the morning, we drove off from our Airbnb near Bologna with one destination in mind, Stresa. The journey itself took us just over 3 hours, and completely exhausted, we have arrived at the hotel Villa e Palazzo Aminta just before 7 AM in the morning.
Tak, a po 300 kilometrech se blížíme do Stresy a uvidíme, jestli tam teda Pagani budou nebo ne.
And the cars were there, just parked up in front of the hotel.
Hele. Ahaha! Joho! Jsme ve Strese a co tady nevidíme, přímo na straně ulice, u vily, nevím jak se jmenuje.
In this clip, you can clearly see just how excited I was. I didn't know if I was dreaming or not, as I could count the number of Paganis I have seen prior to this day on one hand, and now there were 15 of them parked up in front of me. If I would calculate with the total production of 260 vehicles up until that day, that would mean that I have seen 6% of the entire 20-year production at the same time. I immediately started taking pictures and videos of the cars there, but I just couldn't wrap my head around the sheer number of them. The entire lot was probably worth around $40 million. Fun fact, this yellow Pagani Huayra was the first Huayra delivered to the UK. And I've seen this Zonda Aether 2 years later in London, and it sold for $6.8 million in auction in the November of 2019. This Zonda, nicknamed Uno, was also quite special, as it was the latest delivered 760, and unlike most other Paganis, it only had one single exhaust pipe. After quite some time at the parking lot, the owners of the cars started getting in their vehicles, and I suspected that it is probably time to get back in our car. The problem was that we didn't have any idea where the convoy would be headed next, and so our only hope was to keep up with the rest of the Paganis. We jumped into our trusty little Fiat 500, pulled up on the side of the road in front of the hotel, and waited what would happen. And stuff finally started happening. The cars began driving off the car park and into the oncoming traffic, and we waited for the best time to join the convoy. When we finally found the spot, it just so happened that we joined the group behind the blue Zonda C12 and just in front of Mr. Pagani's Huayra Roadster. I'm not sure Mr. Pagani was happy about the fact that he had to watch the back of a black Fiat 500 instead of his own creations while driving on his own rally. I really apologize about that, but I was having the time of my life. We were cruising on tight Italian country roads behind the screaming 6-liter V12 engine off the C12 with Mr. Pagani in his newest machine following us just behind. Just listen to this engine on the tunnel runs. At one point, we drove onto the highway, where our real problems began. The base Fiat 500 from the rental company has a 1.2-liter naturally aspirated engine, producing whopping 69 horsepower, which would be enough for driving to and back from the factories and pizza restaurants as we had initially planned, but is not enough for chasing down $3 million hypercars on the highway. We were doing 50 kilometers per hour. The poor little Fiat was shaking and it felt like it was going to fly off the road, but it just wasn't quite enough. Thankfully, we always somehow managed to catch up with the Paganis as they were stuck in traffic or at the pay tolls. The luck was on our side. At one point, all the cars stopped on the side of the road to wait for the rest of the group, and I seized the opportunity and got a picture with Mr. Pagani right next to his roadster and with other Paganis in the background. We continued going, I don't even know where, but the important bit is that even after covering 200 kilometers, we were still in the pack of cars. The only issue this time was that we started running out of petrol. Thankfully, luck was still on our side, and some of the other cars had to fuel up as well. So here we were, at a random petrol station in the middle of nowhere, fueling up next to a Zonda F, Huayra Roadster, Huayra BC, and Zonda C12.
We have a bit of a takeover here. Pagani takeover.
My vlogging skills were clearly not as good 2 years ago as they are now. Even though they're not really that great now as well. It was at this petrol station where I got approached by one of the guys from Pagani who very politely asked us to drive at the back of the convoy so that we were not blocking the view for the other owners. And so we did. The only cars behind us were the Pagani branded van and a Huayra Roadster which got lost along the way and was trying to catch up with the rest of the pack. We drove few more kilometers with the convoy, but at one point, I guess, they were done with us taking videos and pictures, and so the van overtook us and disappeared in the distance. Here you can kinda see how crazy the whole experience was. This G63 4x4 was driving probably 170 kilometers per hour on tight country roads when it overtook the van while driving off the road with 2 wheels. I am so angry that I didn't catch this on the video. At least here you can see the Roadster driving off the road for a bit. As I said, crazy stuff. And so, it was time to drive 300 kilometers back home. We stopped in Milan on our way to take pictures of this Agera XS parked up in front of the Mandarin Oriental, and then headed straight back to our cozy Airbnb. When we arrived, we were completely exhausted, and I couldn't believe that this was only the first day of our trip, and we still had all the museums to look forward to. What a crazy day this was. So this was everything for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. It was one of the best car-related experiences of my life. Please like and subscribe, and if you'd like to see more photos from this crazy trip, follow me at VivaLaAutomotive on Instagram. This was everything for today. Hopefully, see you next time.